Chapter 34, Packing for the Journey. Roland walked to the cow laying in the corner of the barn and kneeled down behind her. She lifted her head and placed it on his knees. "How are you feeling, Giselle?" Roland stroked her forehead and down her neck. He pulled a carrot from his pocket and placed it in her mouth. She chewed contentedly as he continued to stroke her neck and down the side of her swollen belly. Roland pressed his hands along her side, feeling for the calf inside. "You've been resting a lot today," he said to the weary cow. He turned his head and pressed his ear to her side, listening intently, just as his father had taught him to do. The calf moved slightly, and Roland stroked firmly several times in one direction. "That's a good girl, Giselle. Thank you for being patient while I work on your belly. This will help your calf be ready to be born. If your calf comes today, we can leave tomorrow." Roland gathered the last few armfuls of hay and placed some near Giselle's head. Roland smiled as Marguerite's calf pranced around in front of the barn while her mother grazed the patchy ground. This calf had been born with ease and already looked lively and ready to walk to the foothills. Giselle's calf had not yet dropped into position, and Roland knew that if she went into labor before it did, he would have to act quickly to help. "My dear Giselle, I'm worried about the patches of bare dirt all around the hillside. I'm afraid all our friends have stamped so much of the hill into solid earth, searching for new sprouts. If we stay any longer, the hill will be bare." Roland gently stroked Giselle's forehead and said, "I know you don't know why you are so large and so tired, for you have never birthed a calf. But soon you will see your little calf, and you will lick it and give it milk. Then we can all journey together to the foothills. I have chores to do, but I'll be back to check up on you soon." Galen, the horse, trotted up, while Roland was carrying an armload of sticks from the woodpile. "Hello, Galen. These are for our fire." Galen whinnied. "When we are ready to go, I will light the fire with some tinder and embers from the kitchen hearth. Our signal fire will be very hot and bright, so I will put you in the pen first." A group of 3 curious sheep came around the barn to see what had excited Galen. "Yes, my friends, we are leaving soon. Do you see how much the floodwater has fallen? Come along, Galen. We need to pack for our trip. Do you think we can do it by the end of day?" Galen happily followed Roland to the kitchen. "You are lucky you are not in town, my friend, for your 4 hooves would get stuck in the muck. Instead, we will walk on the path to the foothills and enjoy the green hillside. The flood didn't go that high, so the earth is firm and the grass is growing high. We will meet Sir Andrew and the farmers in the field after they travel up the river from the town." Roland untied the heavy wooden crate from the horse's back. "It seems the carving I did on the crate yesterday helps it stay on your saddle. Today I wanted to put rocks into the box and test how well it will stay in place when it is heavy with supplies, but we are out of time and now I must pack it." Roland carried the wooden crate up the kitchen stairs and set it on the top step while he pushed open the heavy door. After entering the kitchen, he pulled the table away from the wall, revealing the heavy stone slab that covered the cold storage room underneath the kitchen. Hidden below the kitchen was a bounty of treasure kept cold by the stone wall of the well that had been dug deeply into the hillside. His mouth watered as he imagined the smells when he would open it. Earthy root vegetables, fragrant cheeses, hearty dried meats, pots of cold butter and honey, and best of all, raspberries from the path to the fields, preserved in honey. Roland pushed the 2 large wheels of fresh cheese across the kitchen. They were so big he could just barely wrap his arms around them. The cloth wrapping felt rough against his fingers. These would go underground to age, and he would bring up the 2 wheels that had been aging since the last harvest to bring to the farmers headed to the upper fields. Moving the stone slab was hard work, and he usually had help to pry it up and push it to the side. Without a helper, Roland would need to find some sturdy sticks to keep the slab from falling in or slipping sideways when he lifted it up to the level of the floor and pushed it. Roland carefully laid out all the supplies he had ready on the table. Over the past week, he had baked loaf after loaf of bread. He had boiled 24 fresh eggs, then peeled and packed them in salt water so they could last longer. But everything else he needed was still under the heavy slab. As Roland lifted the heavy wooden crate onto the table, he felt a sharp pain stabbing through his back. He heavily set the crate down and rubbed the sore spot with his fist. This pain reminded him of the injury when he had fallen off a bucking horse when he was a young man. It had taken many months to recover from it, and ever since then, if he worked too hard or lifted something heavy in the wrong way, it would bother him again. Breathing deeply from the pain, he smelled wood smoke coming into the kitchen from outside. Roland hobbled down the stairs and leaned against the wall as he walked around the barn. He saw a fire blazing on the castle turret nearest him. Near the fire, he could see the faces of the king and queen and Prince Ronduin looking his way. "Aha!" he yelled. "We are nearly ready. We are waiting for Giselle to give birth." It was too far for them to hear. He saw Agnes's head rise from the stairway inside the turret, and he closed his eyes and sent this message as a feeling thought to his sister. They had practiced sending silent messages to one another since they were children. Chapter 35. Watching for a Signal from Barn Hill. Mirabelle was barely awake. She felt for Adelaide and didn't find her. It was the overwhelming smell of freshly baked bread that reminded her that tonight, for the first time since Adelaide was a baby, she had not slept snuggled up to her sister. Instead, she had slept upstairs above the bakery. Mirabelle stood up and walked to the open window. This was nothing like the view out her window at home. Here, instead of lines of trees, she saw lines of houses and shops. Looking down, she saw a street still covered by muddy water. "Today, I will learn whether I will scrub mud off walls or run as fast as I can with Rowan across the foothills all the way to the barn," she thought. Just then, Mirabelle's father, Ricard, entered the room. "Good day, Mirabelle," he said. "We have a job for you. We need a watcher who will keep their eyes on Barn Hill. Garrick will show you how to get to the top of the bell tower. If you see a signal fire at Barn Hill, you will ring the bell 3 times to let us know that Roland and the animals are on their way to the foothills." "And if I see no fire?" asked Mirabelle. "Garrick will return to ring the bell once at noon," said Ricard. "If he arrives and you have not yet seen the fire, then come directly to the boat where we left it at the pier. All the supplies and passengers will be loaded and we will leave as soon as you arrive." Ronduin sat cross-legged with sunrise settled into the hollow made by his legs. "I can't stay here long today," he said to the contented chicken, "so don't start to think that my legs are your nest." Ronduin's hand rested on the soft feathers of the chicken's back, and he could feel her breathing as he peered through the openings in the railing. He saw a courtyard where bushes peeked out of muddy water. The stones on the lower level of the castle wall wore a muddy color. Soon, when the water is gone, you can live out there in the courtyard. You will be much happier pecking about in dirt than you are here on a stone floor, said Ronduin to the chicken. Just then, the door opened and the king entered the balcony.
Good morning, Prince Ronduin, honored ruler of chickens, he said with a smile.
Good morning, said Ronduin, who gave his report right away. No fire yet from Barn Hill, and no fire yet from the village.
Sir Andrew will send a watcher to the bell tower to watch for Roland's signal fire, said the king. He will wait until midday. If Roland's signal fire isn't lit by then, he will take runners on the boat. If the signal fire is lit, he will take Lars, who is a skilled farmhand. Plowing and planting the high fields is a huge task, continued the king. The food supply for both the village and the castle depends on these workers. To be honest, son, I'm not sure they can finish the planting soon enough to grow the quantity of food we need to get us through the winter, even if they do bring a skilled farmer like Lars instead of runners.
Who do you think Sir Andrew will bring if he doesn't see a signal fire from Barn Hill? Asked Ronduin.
Ricard told Sir Andrew that his 2 eldest children are very fast runners, said the king.
I know them both from school, said Ronduin. Both Rowan and Mirabel are very fast. Ronduin smiled as he realized that if Mirabel ran to the barn, he might see her far in the distance, and he might wave to her and see her wave back. Then his smile faded, and his eyes opened wide. Oh no, he thought. If she recognizes me, she will know I'm not Ronduin from a small farm. She will realize I'm Prince Ronduin of the castle. I will no longer be a secret prince. Father, Mirabel doesn't know that I live at the castle, said Ronduin. Do you think that she will recognize me if she sees me on the turret? Ronduin's father looked like he was thinking, and then he broke into a mischievous grin.
She might, and she might not. It is far away, so she would not be sure about who she is seeing. I suppose if you want to be sure she doesn't know who you are, you could wear a disguise, he said, laughing.
Said Ronduin.
You've got all day to figure that out,
said the king with a smile.
If there is no fire on the hill, Sir Andrew will leave midday with the runners. They have to row upstream, and then the runners have a distance to travel on the trail along the foothills. They would arrive at the barn before dark, I would think. But now we must take up our watch posts. You go to the turret, and I'll watch from the sitting room. Your mother and I brought more wood to the top of the turret last evening. We piled it around the edges because the first fire still holds embers. We have to move the wood from the edges to the middle as soon as we see the signal fire at the village. When Roland sees the second fire, he will know the green boat is moving upriver. Mirabel followed Garrick across a board that connected the bakery to the bell tower. One end of the board was propped up on a chair inside the bakery, and the other end of it rested on the third step of the bell tower. It's really dark in here, said Mirabel, her voice echoing slightly off the stone walls. It's quite dim all the way, said Garrick, but when we get to the top, near the bells, the light will stream in, and you will see all the way to the castle and to the barn hill. You can't see the barn because of all the trees, but if Roland lights a signal fire, you will see the smoke rising above the trees. Mirabel touched the cool stone of the wall as she climbed. This must be what it's like in the stone castle, she thought. You have to climb up and up and up to get to the top. I've never been so high above ground. I've always wanted to ring the bell, said Garrick, climbing steadily up the wooden spiral stairs. The usual bell ringer lives at the other end of town,
and still can't get here. So Mother tells me I will ring the bell 3 times a day until he returns. I wanted to be one of the runners, but instead I have to help at the bakery. When I learned I was staying in the village, I thought my luck to be very bad. But now that I am to be the bell ringer, I see my luck is very good.
I too may stay in the village, or I may run in the hills, said Mirabelle. I will know soon what my luck will be.
Ronduin stepped up to the window of the turret and pulled Apple out of his pocket and set it on the window ledge.
Good morning, Apple, he said.
Ronduin saw cows and sheep on Barn Hill nibbling on the few green patches amid the bigger patches of brown earth where the grass had been destroyed by too much grazing. He moved Apple closer to the window.
Look at those sheep and cows with so little to eat, he said. They will be so happy when they get to the tall grasses of the foothills. By the end of the day, he told Apple, we might see Mirabelle at the barn. You've never met Mirabelle, but you would like her. And now I have to decide if I will wave at her and take the chance that she recognizes me. What do you think, Apple? If we see Mirabelle, should I wear a disguise? Maybe a wig or a jester's cap? Or should I just be me and take the chance that she learns that I am the prince and not the sort of farm boy she thinks I am?
Ronduin looked at Apple for many minutes, waiting for an answer. He knew Apple could not speak out loud, but maybe Apple would send him a quiet message about whether he should wear a disguise. Apple leaned against the edge of the window opening, looking peaceful.
You are right, Apple, said Ronduin. I will feel more at peace if I do not try to pretend to be someone else. I will just be me.